The Ae86 was a phenomenal car, and what did they get to replace it? This.
I see why our parking lots are full of these. Make you think this car ain't even Japanese. Valve angle ever since it's been decreasing. Have you ever seen a more damn normal car?
Toyota Corollas, they might just be the most commonplace car we've ever reviewed. It doesn't matter who you are, you had one in your history. A Toyota Corolla intersects you at some point in your life. Whether it was your mom owning an E90, a friend getting used to an AE82 for his first car, or a neighbor kid rear-ending you in his dad's E160. The AE82 is a car as strangely familiar as the lingering anxiety that accompanies the transition from summer to fall. Sure, you're an adult now and you work year-round, but there's something about the arrival of fall that reminds you what it was like to be a kid, to remember that summer was ending and school was right around the corner. No more staying up till midnight, no more day-long hikes to the middle of nowhere, no more ogling the cute lifeguard at the community swimming pool. No. As soon as school starts up again, and she doesn't have to save your lying ass from drowning, she'll go right back to banging Johnny Hill Start while you're stuck reading A Tale of Two Cities. An 87 Corolla is the type of car for hitting the bar to watch the 87 Saints get creamed by the Vikings in lieu of blowing all of your cash on lap dances at Mustang Sally's. This fifth generation of Corolla was widely considered the most popular, with around 3.3 million units being produced between 1983 and 1987. The Corolla had been around since the late 60s, but it took a while to catch on in North America because of its early generations. They were so ludicrously underpowered. It wasn't until the fourth generation that the Corolla caught on, thanks to a new chassis, a more sophisticated 75 horsepower 1.8-liter version of the overhead 4 engine that they always use. By the fifth generation, the Corolla was just about ready to peak. The generation came with the 4AC engine, although most forums will tell you that it's best enjoyed with the legendary 4AGE twin cam, if you can manage to find one to swap it out for. The MR2s and the AE86s really gobble these engines up because they want those cars to keep moving and moving and moving. So you really have to find specialty shops that just hoard 4AGE motors. The standard 4A was a single overhead cam inline 4 8-valve carbureted engine that got you between 78 to 90 horsepower at 4,800 RPM and 85 pound-feet of torque at 2,800 RPM. But the 4AGE made 112 horsepower at a screaming 6,600 RPM and 97 foot-pounds of torque at 4,800 RPM. And that 4AGE motor will safely scream all the way to 7,500 RPM. This is because the 4AGE was designed specifically for top-end performance. That engine produced a higher power thanks to a wider valve angle. A wider angle reduces turbulence and improves air velocity while also improving combustion and reducing air-fuel separation. Subsequent Corolla engines had a more modest valve angle between 20 and 25 degrees, but that 4AGE engine had a wider 50-degree angle. The width is basically the difference between exchanging virginities with your high school sweetheart and throwing a Tic Tac down an open manhole. There are communities for people looking to swap the 4A series engines, and it speaks to the customizable nature of the Corolla, a car so standard it might as well be modeling clay in a prison art class. But how is the Corolla as a car? It's just that. A car. It's what little kids would draw if you asked them to draw a car. It's what you'd expect to see in a dictionary next to car, if any dictionaries I ever owned had pictures. I can see how Honda beat out Toyota in these days. The EF series hatch is, it's better nearly, it is better in every sense than the AE82. The AE82 has a bit more 80s boxy style than the EF hatches, sure. And the EF hatches have a better gearbox. Of course, that's just Honda, how they work. You just slam those gearboxes. This thing, this feels like a truck transmission. Of course, this AE82 has a 5-speed, while the EF hatch that I drove only had a 4. So you had more gears to work with in these cars. Oh, by the way, these wheels, they look stock, they're not. The previous owner of this car was able to find larger stock-looking wheels. They may be out of a catalog, I don't know. This is one of those electronically controlled carburetors. It has a computer in it. It has a very rudimentary... I have no idea how this carburetor works. Hand me I can figure out a Holly, and I know Edelbrock's now but I have no idea what this thing does. There at one point was a larger air cleaner on this and was replaced by this itty-bitty thing right here. But honestly, the car drives fine. One thing that these carbureted engines do have over the equivalent throttle body injected cars is their throttle response. You get on it and that butterfly valve opens and in comes the air and psh, there goes the fuel. This is during that age where carburetors are kind of hanging on there, because if you take one of these motors and get the right kind of cylinder head and get the right kind of, like you can have 4 Webers on here and it'll run better than an injection system of the same year. This car is very light and very fun. And as this season progresses, we're going to have this, there's going to be an overriding theme of it's more fun to drive a slow car fast than it is to drive a fast car fast. I have more fun in slow cars than I do in fast cars, because you are flooring this car to drive it fun, and that's the fun in it. Should you find one of these cars? Yes. You definitely should. It's got solid workmanlike handling, and I guess it's fast enough for its time. I mean, what should a person realistically expect from a Corolla? I know, it's easy to take these things at face value, but there's this nagging feeling that there should be more to this than there is. After all, looks can be deceiving, right? I mean, especially cars from this era, because you can beat on them and abuse them, and they stick around. These cars survive. And a lot of them would be just as reliable or more reliable than cars from 10 years down the line. But that's not really the case here. What you see is mostly what you get, unless you do an engine swap. And an AE82 is almost teasing you to stick a new engine in her. But even then, how much money are you really going to want to put into an 80s Corolla, the AE82? Because it's not an AE86. It's like the car is trying to give you blue balls, but forgets that it actually has to get you hard first.
This generation had a standard engine, the 4AC. But if you want a twin cam swap, try out the 4AGE. It's true, this is not a Mazda 2 like last week's Scion brand. Oh, but anyone who drives Toyotas would understand.